All right, so hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Sillypoint Podcast. This is episode number 21, and we have a really special episode lined up for you folks because we're with Vivin, and Vivin happens to be one of our own, a graduate from NITK Surathkal, and he graduated back in 2005, has gone on to IIM, joined McKinsey, Hilti, global conglomerates, and finally ended up starting up his own VC firm, Zacua Ventures, which happens to be doing extremely well. I think they were founded in 2022 and raised their inaugural fund round at $56 million, which is well over their target, and currently have a portfolio between 15 to 25 companies nearly, and their first investment has gone on to raise a series A round of nearly $9 million. So join me in kind of doing a deep dive into Vivin's extremely unconventional yet extremely successful story. So happy to have you here, Vivin. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been putting this off for a while, but it's finally great to see you here.
Thanks for having me, Hari. I look forward to this.
Yeah, so let's get started at the beginning of all things. We just wanted to kind of let's start off with your experience at NITK. So you found yourself here as a young adult, and in a warm summer of 2001. But you went ahead to do some incredible things in college itself. Especially becoming the student council president. So, what is the ambition that drove you? What all kind of clubs were you a part of, and what kind of characteristics did you get from these clubs that kind of helped you later on in your career?
See, undergrad is always a formative experience. You make your best friends here. Most of my closest friends are all from Surathkal, so actually a lot of them live in the Bay, so we're still very close. And it teaches you a lot: leadership skills, social skills, technical skills. All of this you build during that phase. And for me, college was definitely a part of that, and we had good professors, so I learned a lot in class. But outside of it is where I think I learned even more. So being the student union president, we had the first engineer in 2005. So organizing that was something new, and it was like the silver jubilee of Incident that's year. So the first time we're going back to fundraising for Incident. That was so it was like building something new, which was pretty cool, and we had a really good team to work around. But it needed a lot of time and effort in getting this done. So from an organization perspective, fundraising perspective, a leadership perspective, the campus taught me a lot. And those are lessons that help you grow individually, professionally as well. And that's, I think it set me up very well for what came later in life.
Awesome. And being a part of engineer going out to fundraising and all. What was your thought process at the end of your college life? So you've done all of these organizational activities and so on. So did that kind of push you into like going into an engineering job, or what kind of finally led to your decision into going to IIM after this?
So I always wanted an engineering job. So I actually did not apply to any of the software companies in campus. So I got into Larsen & Toubro and was interested in taking it, but I felt like I wasn't really ready to go start working. That's why I was like, I want to study more. And I was open to taking both the engineering route and the management route. So I did give GRE as well, got a good score, got into the IIMs and stuff. So I was still thinking about whether I should go to the US to study MS or just do the MBA. Came down to it being more affordable, studying in India and getting a scholarship to be doing that rather than going abroad. And it was also, IIM Calcutta was also known for finance. It's something I was close to. It was math is a subject I'd liked for a long period of time, and being in finance was very interesting to me. And that's how I ended up going to IIM Calcutta.
Awesome. And as a part of IIM, how are your, how did it help develop your character? So, were there any clubs that you took interest in, and what drove you towards, consulting, which is where you ended up later in life?
So, yeah, it's an interesting question. When I joined IIM Calcutta, I was not going to be in consulting. So I was a finance and economics major. That's where I did everything. My internship with Deutsche Bank. Everybody in campus knew I was going to join one of the investment banks. That was very clear even till about 2 months before the recruitment process started. To the extent that as a place com rep, And because everybody knew I was not going to these consulting organizations, they knew that I could push back, and they're very hard to deal with on campus. So I was to manage McKinsey, BCG, Bain, a lot of these consulting firms because I had nothing to lose, so to say, right? But in those 2 years, I got to know them very well as well as I was managing this, organizing it, and so on. And I was like, maybe it's worth looking at it. Maybe at least it's worth giving it a try. And I said, okay, let me prepare a few cases. I still had banks at the top of my list. Only exception was McKinsey. I was like, if I get into McKinsey, McKinsey was like in the top three, but outside of that, in my top five is all banks, right? So I was like, that is one exception I will make. If I get into that organization, I will go, and that's how I ended up. Uh, McKinsey wanted to meet me, got interviewed. That was my first interview of the day. I had the job offer after the first interview, and I was like, okay, I have this now. Now, not worth trying out other stuff. But I did go and interview with everyone, but ended up joining McKinsey.
Nice. I mean, I think so. You just in your first shot, you got through McKinsey.
I was fortunate enough.
Wow, that's amazing. McKinsey, like, I mean, so you were developing throughout your time at IM, you were kind of developing like this interest in finance, but like later on, like McKinsey just happened, and you kind of went into consulting. So I think you were kind of flexible there, but were you kind of upset that you didn't end up going into finance because like you'd already spent so much time on it, or what was kind of the
So
decision process there?
two reasons. Finance was intellectually stimulating in some way. So I'd done my internship there. I'd seen how the desk works, but it was all your time in terms of the desk, right? I've always been social in terms of whether being place rep at AMCAL, president in Suratkal, I was in CSI, a bunch of other classes, class rep, and so on and so forth, right? So I wanted more people interaction, and McKinsey was solving really interesting problems. So you're a problem solver. You're learning about different industries. You're in the field. You're actually making an impact, rather than just analyzing Excel and calculating volatility and stuff like that. Yes, still intellectually stimulating. So this gave me both. It gave me both building my people skills as well as building my problem solving skills, which I think from a longer term perspective as you grow is better. And that's the reason I said, okay, this makes more sense.
Awesome. I mean, it's crazy that you had this foresight that, in the long term, people matter just as much as like hard skills. And I think that came together really, really, really well, into a venture capital role. So, yeah, it's really, really awesome that you had that foresight. So looking back, let's say you could go back and give your young MBA days advice, like a young MBA grad like yourself, and some advice. So what advice would you give them? Like, what skills do you feel was the most valuable that you picked up back at IM?
I wouldn't change a lot. I think I enjoyed my journey, and I wouldn't change a lot. I would take myself less seriously. Life is about having fun. Life is about doing the most of what you have around yourself. So we think of a lot of things as make or break. Nothing is really make or break. Uh, yes, that drives you, that pushes you to be better, which is very, very important. But as you look at it from a 20-year perspective, right? There's no one thing that really makes or break things. It's like it's the consistent effort that is important and doing it right. And also, it's important to be doing the right things for people, right? Success is important, but being a good human being is probably more important. It's very underrated in the world we live in today. Uh, and for whatever reason, right? It's unfortunately the way it is. But I think for being personally satisfied and having a happy life, I think that's very important.
Absolutely. So can I take this as a way of uh, older Vivin telling younger Vivin to have played more cricket back at IM?
Uh, I did try. I did not play enough.
Okay.
I agree. I think I should have played more. I should have played more. I haven't. I've never stopped playing. I still play, right? But I probably should have played more.
Nice. And you want to elaborate a little bit about like how cricket kind of, because even now, like as a senior partner as a founding partner at a VC firm, you mentioned that you go out and you still play cricket at like leagues and stuff. So what role did cricket have like in all of this, like through your journey in engineering and through IM, and what keeps you still like in touch with your hobbies?
You need to maintain your sanity. For me, cricket is like a release. If you're really passionate about something, then that keeps you going. That keeps you going, and you're not bored or you're not feeling distant or let down and stuff like that. I can have hard weeks, and when I get on the field, none of that matters, right? I'm there in the moment, and I'm happy, right? And that just gives you a release, which is important. And for me, it's cricket. For a lot of other people, it could be other hobbies or other passions that they follow. But having something like that in your life is important, because otherwise, you're just disconnected with the social aspects of it, and you don't have any release points.
True. So I think especially people who are off like the JE grind, and then their initial career days grind, like they kind of maybe overlook their whole like their hobbies and stuff. But the fact that someone like as busy as you is still in touch with their hobbies probably is like a is a signal out to all of these young folks that you need to keep in touch with these things to maintain your sanity. So yeah, so you finish your MBA, you're at McKinsey, as a young consultant. So did you feel any like imposter syndrome, like, oh my god, people here are so smart, and what kind of helped you kind of become a part of this incredibly smart team of people? So how did you kind of navigate your initial days at McKinsey?
So I actually did not feel the imposter syndrome, partly because the iron grind was tough enough. I actually felt McKinsey's schedules were lighter than what I had
Wow.
in AmCal, because because I was a place rep as well. I sleep at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning every day. You survived on 3-4 hours of sleep. McKinsey was better than that. I'm not saying McKinsey work life is great. I'm just saying it was better than what we had in IIMS. And also, a lot of people who joined were friends, right? So in your batch, most people who joined are from IAMS, ABC, and so on and so forth. So you know who these are. These are all peer sets. So there's nothing to be intimidated about. You just feel that the quality of people overall is super high, right? Uh, you're not like when you go through school and college and other places, you're comparing against a wider market. Here it gets to concentration where everybody's really, really good. So you don't really come in with a skill advantage or talent advantage when you come into a firm like McKinsey. You have to earn everything that you get there, right? So that means constantly upgrading yourself, putting in the effort, building relationships. All of that is good. And being the best at a place like McKinsey requires you to be firing on all cylinders. So it really, really sharpens you. And McKinsey picks people who want to get there, right? So everybody's motivated, everybody's putting their 100%. So it is a really good leadership factory from a perspective of getting you ready for whatever else you do in life later on.
Got it. And you stayed at McKinsey like a really long time. You stayed there for like nearly 6 years. So was this like, was this intentional? Were you trying to gain experience, or was it like you were really into consulting? So what kept you for 6 years at McKinsey?
Because it was fun. It was fun, and I was never in one place, right? In the 6 years I was in McKinsey, I was in India, Africa, Indonesia, Singapore, Chicago, back to India. So I was doing very different projects, lots of interesting projects, working with really smart people, and learning a lot all across, right? So when I eventually left McKinsey was when I said, okay, what you're asking me to do going forward is not exciting as what I've done in the past, and that's not what I want to sign up for, right? And also, Hilti was a great opportunity at that point in time, and we evaluated that for a long time. And people always leave McKinsey. So the question is when,
Yeah.
right? For me, that was the right time. And it was a very good experience over the so many years. I don't think I would have gotten it at any other firm in terms of the growth that I did over the years that I was there.
Awesome. And so why move to Hilti, right? So it's Hilti is in construction, and McKinsey, you're like you're behind, and you're making these slides and doing research on companies. So what prompted you to go into like a into the construction space?
So McKinsey also has an industrials guy. So to be very honest, I hated making slides. I'd made it when I had to, but I hated making slides. I was working in a mine in Africa, right? I was setting up automotive plants in Indonesia. I was working on procurement supply chains in US. So I was always in factories. I was always looking at I did strategy, but I also did operations. I did sales. I did all aspects of it. So going into an industrials company was not something that's strange for me. Hilti happened because when I was leaving McKinsey, I said a few things are important to me. Company I joined, I wanted to be in the industrial space. I wanted to be global because I have global aspirations. I might move around and so on. So that was the second thing. I also wanted a private company because I don't want them to be driven by quarterly milestones. I wanted them to have longer thought process and so on and so forth. And finally, I wanted a company which knew how to work with consultants because a lot of them don't, right? A lot of them don't have the processes in place for that. Hilti, half a board was consultants. And the person I was reporting to was ex-McKinsey. The group that I was joining was all consultants. They had a very specific profile of bringing in ex-McKinsey, BCG Bain folks who manage projects in multinational companies and so on. And also the cultural fit was there. So I had a engagement with Hilti for about 11 months, not at McKinsey, but I had so many different interviews, met so many other different people. So I took my time in making that decision. But that way, I got to know the company really well and I liked the people. And that's how I eventually decided this is the place I want to be.
Awesome. And I think given that you worked like across so many countries and so many different segments of manufacturing, you must have had like a really really fun time at Hilti. Then where did this itch to kind of become a venture capitalist really come from, and why come back to tech? So what was the driving force there?
A few different things. So Hilti, my journey was like I started in corporate strategy, but I did sales. So I was on construction sites. So I spent the time, but I also set up the CVC for Hilti. So that led to me trying to figure out how investing works in the space. We built the brand, we built the deal flow, we started evaluating it, we built internal processes. And construction tech was a very, very nascent space, especially when we started investing. There weren't really any VCs doing this, right? We invested in some funds which were very early at that point. We invested in direct startups and so on, but it's super early. There are very few people doing this. And what I realized over a period of time is in this space, there is a big gap. If you look at the biggest problems facing humanity now, you look at climate change, 40% of emission comes from the built environment. If you look at infrastructure that we needed to build, there's like a 15 trillion gap that exists, and that needs to be deployed very efficiently. That can't be solved without being more efficient in space. You look at affordable housing, that can't be solved without more innovation in the space. I said so many problems, but not enough dollars going in the space. Secondly, startups, when they start initially come into the space, struggle because the market is fragmented. They don't know how to go to customers. Enterprises are very slow. So we said, if there's someone who could help them and de-risk their early existence, then that adds a lot of value, right? And finally, on the corporate side, having done that, I know how difficult it is to be setting up a CVC to get deal flow and so on and so forth. If you have an innovation partner in terms of VC, it would make your life so much easier and it would make you so much better in terms of what you're doing. So the concept of Zacua was born out of that. It was not just any VC. It was a VC basically brought the ecosystem together. And because all the partners had such a deep understanding of construction workflows, it made sense for us to come here. And today we're backed by some of the largest players in the space. If we talk about Hilti, Cemex, Trimble, Procore, and a lot of other GCs and stuff. They're all investors in the fund. So what was an idea back then has become real now.
Awesome. But now that you became a venture capitalist, why stick with construction? I mean, traditionally people go into software, people go into tech. Obviously, today looking back, like it's a great space to be in because robotics has kind of really, really grown in the past couple of years. But you did this although like nearly 3 to 5 years back. So, what was kind of your hunch that we should stick to construction and this is where innovation will be heading in the next couple of years?
So a few things. One is this is what we know. So been in construction for more than 10 years. So you'll do better things in things that you know, right? Doing
True.
things that are alien to you, you don't have the defensibility or the differentiations, right? Second, the macro is very supportive, right? As I said, the biggest problems can be solved through this industry. And dollars will eventually come in, right? Even though now it's actually happening, even 5 years back, you could see that this is the direction trends are going, right? So that's the second thing that's important. And hardware versus software, it's not that we do exclusively hardware. We're just comfortable with some hardware. So for me, I've come from industrial space, right? Whether it's in McKinsey or even at Surathkal being a mechanical engineer, dabbling in robotics. So I've always been in the space and it's always been attractive to me. So just working on topics which are of more interest. And it just so happened that macro has also gone away, and now everybody wants to be investing in the space. But this is what we've been brought upon. I used to go to IT Bombay on robotics competitions back in. So this has always been interesting for me.
Awesome. And so you kind of saw the robotics wave kind of coming back then itself.
I wouldn't say I saw that. I don't have a crystal ball, but I did think there were possibilities of it moving this direction, and we thought our skill sets matched that as well.
Absolutely. And I think today we see like China really taking up the lead in terms of robotics, right? I see like these crazy videos of nearly humanoid robots that are far ahead, like the humanoids that even Tesla has kind of demoed. So, how do you feel like they're so ahead of the curve? Was it because of their background in manufacturing, and any suggestion on like how India could kind of catch up to that?
So China truly is ahead. Even people in the US do not realize that because visibility on China is not as much. You look at what Unity is building, their robots are superior to most other things that are there. It's only because of geopolitical reasons that they haven't found more traction, but China has really done a very good job on robotics. The reason they've been able to do it is one singular focus from a government perspective, right? There's been funding, both at a university level, but also for the startup ecosystem. And there's been backing from a manufacturing perspective. Energy is cheap, data is cheap in some ways, and everything's streamlined, right? If you are moving towards a strategic topic, the regulations are also easier. So one, they have built a very good foundation of technologists, right? There's a lot of research going in China. Two, they've created the environment where it becomes easy for them to innovate. Three, the cost position is fairly low, right? In terms of everything from a base cost perspective, you have foundational models which are becoming cheaper there. You have robotic platforms which are very cheap there. So energy is cheap there, and you have a big mass of people. So data capture is also not that difficult. So you put all of this together, it builds over a period of time. And they've not done this overnight. They've been working on this for 10, 20, 25 years, and it compounds, right? It compounds when this consistent effort is there. For India to start doing this, first we need more research, right? We need less red tape, right? The startup funding scene needs to improve. I think VCs obviously are there; they're doing a lot, but Indian VCs traditionally have not had a lot of bets in the deep tech space. Recently, I saw about a billion being announced by Premji and Bloom and I think a couple of others. I think that's a great sign. If there's funding, then there's more confidence in teams to do that. I also see that IT Bombay is doing a few things about incubating deep tech startups and all of that. So I do think the trend is positive, but you need consistency. You need to do this for an extended period of time, and then India can catch up.
Makes sense. So obviously, then you are, let's say you're a young VC, and you as an engineer have a really like solid foundation in terms of understanding the possibilities in robotics, the possibilities in innovation that is coming by. But construction overall being like a slow space to adopt technology, it might have been hard for you to raise like get your investors on board. So what was your initial journey in raising that $56 million round like?
So if we'd known how the market was, we might have done some things differently. But like all founders, we are stupid, right? We didn't know what was possible, what was not possible, so we didn't take no for an answer, right? So it was 2022 was really, really tough time to raise. But what we could offer is not just financial performance. We also offered that we could give them strategic guidance in terms of how they are setting up their innovation arms. And because they knew we had this track record of having done this at multiple organizations, that was interesting to a lot of early investors, right? Most of our investors were strategic, who came not just for financial benefits, but also for strategic benefits. Today, as we transition to Fund 2, we can show off financial performance. We can show that, okay, we made this bets, the bets are doing really well, we'll top decile from a venture perspective. So it's a much easier conversation because back then they had to trust us and saying we'll deliver. Today they can see that we've actually done all this and they can see the results and back us based on that, right? So it's less about storytelling, also about showing what we've done. But initially it was about they faith in us, which thankfully was there, but it wasn't straightforward.
Amazing. So, like you said, right, 2022 was a really, really hard time to raise, but you folks went ahead and did it anyways, and eventually you managed to find your first win in the form of document crunch. So, what was your journey into like finding your first company, your first founder? What were the characteristics that you're looking for, and how did they catch your eye?
So Josh, I'd known for a while. I'd probably known him for more than a year before we eventually invested. And every time we went to a startup competition, there's this one startup that was winning it every time, right? Like Document Crunch. And Josh, he was a young guy, early team, not a lot of traction still, but you could see his passion come through, right? So, and we had looked at how difficult the contracting process was. You look at contracting, it's a big pain point. Most legal teams are understaffed. They're almost like blockers to anything that happens. And the pain was real. Every time we speak about the solution, everybody's like, yeah, this needs to be solved. And Josh was solving that problem. He had a really deep understanding of the problem because he was a lawyer. He came from construction law. He had done this. So he's not solving a problem that he was alien to. So he intimately understood that. He showed that he could translate his vision into early product. So he was getting traction from some of the early customers as well. Everybody aligned on the pain point. And as a leader, Josh was fantastic as well, right? So you put all of that together, it has the recipes of being a really good startup over a period of time. And that's how it shaped up. So since then, it's been 3.5 years. He's grown like 45x in those 3.5 years. And you mentioned Series A, right? He's actually raised his Series B of 20 million,
Wow.
20 million plus as well. Since then, he's getting preempted for Series C right now. So he is on a really good trajectory. He's come a long way, and really excited to see how that's developed.
Awesome. So when a young startup founder, they come to you and they kind of pitch their idea. So what are the main characteristics you kind of look for? Like let's say you're not familiar with them, and like in the case of Josh. So what are the immediate things that stand out about a founder for you?
Uh, Firstly, I'll try to see what the problem is, right? Is this a problem that is a real pain point? Because we have a fair understanding of the industry, so we'll try to assess, okay, is he solving something that's a vitamin or is it a painkiller, right? What is he solving for and how large does the market look like? That's like the first lens you have to get. Second lens is how deeply does this founder understand the problem? Is it a very superficial level understanding, or do you really know what the pain point is, what's driving it, and are you able to craft a solution that adequately addresses it, right? Third, what we look at is what is the defensibility? Where's your defensibility coming from? Do you have a deep product? Do you have a deep GTM? And is that your mode? Is your team so talented that you think you'll out iterate others, and that's the reason that we should be backing you? So, what is the defensibility that is there, right?
Right.
And then we start thinking about, okay, what is the indicators of execution? Because ideas are plenty, execution is really, really important. Have you been able to show execution either in this startup or in some other shape or form, right? So how do we trust that you'll actually get to where you want to get at a pace which is faster than most others? So that's something we try to evaluate. And while we're doing all of this, in course of time, we'll also get customer feedback. We'll also start thinking about, okay, and customer feedback is on the pain point, on the founder, on the progress of this company, ability to succeed, and all that. We'll start thinking about GTM, pricing, some of these other questions as well. But those are the 3 or 4 initial topics that we will want to be convinced on when we meet new founders.
Awesome. And I think you met Josh like just after get like the ideation stage and before the seed stage. So like in the pre-seed stage.
He'd already raised some pre-seed, which is small checks.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he was introduced to me through another founder who said, "Hey, Vivin, you should meet this guy. This guy's really great." So, and then we tracked him because by that time I was still at Hilti, right? I was looking. He wasn't a investment that Hilti could have made at that point in time because it's not really completely aligned, and it was today Hilti probably would want to invest in someone like him, but back in the days our mindset was a little bit different. So we kept in touch, and he kept doing better and better. And when we started Zacua, we're like, okay, all of us were agreed. My 2 partners were equally excited about it as well, and we're like, this is a deal we have to win, because it was competitive. It was not us alone, that he had like a couple of other term sheets. So we literally had to land it, even though it was a first deal.
Amazing. And I think now companies are like kind of going like further and further back and trying to catch founders, right? Let's say now we even have, like incubators, like let's say SPC, for example, where they're trying to get
Mhm.
companies in this -1 to 0 stage where they're not sure about the idea, but as folks who have experience like these guys can kind of pitch in and help them develop that idea. So what do you feel about, kind of getting founders a bit earlier? Do you feel like it makes sense, or do you feel like it'll be better if founders kind of got a bit of experience and it'll be better for you to kind of wait and see and get them at a later stage?
So it depends on the VCs, right? That's why there's specializations. So there's accelerators and incubators, there's pre-seed seed VCs, there's Series A VCs, there's growth stage VCs. Everything needs a different level of skill set and add different types of value to. From our perspective, we're happy where we are and being in the pre-seed seed kind of space, because we know what we're good at assessing, and we know what takes a lot of time. We've had a lot of offers to set up accelerators. We are not opposed to it, but it takes a lot of time and effort, because then you're more an operator than anything else. It's not like talking to them once a week or once in 2 days. It's like being there every day, helping them, supporting them, like, providing them the right resources, office space, and all of these. So I think there's definite value in doing some of this. We are probably just not best positioned as yet, as in that could change next year or the year after, and so on and so forth. But I do think founders need support, right? There are lots of talented people in the world. Not everybody has resources to just go and build a startup. So this helps them give that foundation, at least to validate ideas. And we need more and more people coming into this space. So I fully support that.
Awesome. And let's say that founders do come out after a bit of experience, they kind of
Mhm.
reach out to you. So as a VC, in what ways do you try to kind of look out and help them, like beyond just deployment of capital? Like in terms of your experience, what do you feel are the most important things that a young company lacks, and how do you kind of work into providing them with those resources or that experience?
So we do a lot of things. We are actually very hands-on with the portfolio companies. So starting with customer introduction, to help with testing the product, piloting the product, we're trying to win customers. So I think that's one of the critical things that they need in terms of validating the product. We When document crunch first came in, we actually helped them in acquiring the product team, right? So that was very early, and if there's support that's needed, we're more than happy to orchestrate that, right? We are usually on the boards. We help with them with governance topics, where we'll think about the financial modeling, the business plans. We push them to refine it, iterate it, and while we don't want to micromanage, we do want to be there to support when needed, right? And it depends on founder to founder. Some want larger involvement, some want lighter involvement, and we're quite flexible there. But we're usually there in every facet of the business where they need support.
Makes sense. So, I mean, throughout your journey, right? I see like there are so many types of kind of leaps of faith, right? From industry to industry, or going into a new domain of expertise and so on. So, how do you kind of assess this risk at different points in your career? When do you feel like this is the right time to do something new, something different? And do you feel like had you become a founder directly at an earlier stage, you would have built a company, you would have got more time to explore, or do you feel like waiting ahead and getting this experience in these different industries, really getting to know a particular industry very well, and then starting up would be a better idea? How do you feel like this getting experience versus starting off as early as possible? How do you feel the benefits and trade-offs are between those two decisions?
I think there's no wrong decision here per se. Right? For me, my journey has worked out very well, because what I'm doing today is a culmination of the different things I've done. For example, my finance background, my strategy background, my time at Hilti, setting up the CVC. I think all of them have made me a better venture investor today. Right? I would not be doing my job as well as I do today if I did not have all of those experiences. So I think for me, the timing has worked out really well. That said, for founders, there's a lot of reasons to start early, right? The earlier you are in your life, the more risk that you can take, right? And because your downside is minimized, you start something in your 20s, your downside is much lower than you starting when in your late 30s or 40s and stuff like that, right? So depends on your ability to take risk. Also, you could say a repeat founder has made enough money, so they don't have any downside. They could actually go and experiment. So there's different shades to that. But typically, the younger you are, the less downside you have, the more flexibility you have, right? And sometimes these take 100-hour weeks out of you to really get it running. So you can do it in different parts in your life, but ability to do that is a little bit higher in your younger days, right? So that's why there's pros and cons. The later you start, the more experience set that you have, and the lower the number of mistakes you're likely to make, right? But the lower the risk also you're likely to take. So as a trade-off, the younger you are, the you might not have all the experience, but you have the ability to make more mistakes, learn from that, adapt and grow, and so on and so forth. It is about what drives you at that point in time. And if you're really passionate about starting a company, then you can do it at any stage in time, right? There's like no age which is good or bad for starting a company. The fire is really important because it's tough. It's really tough. And there will be lots of times when we like, why did I do this? Or what am I doing? I'm crazy. And there won't be enough people who understand you. That's why that fire from within is really, really important when you start this. Because if you quit when you have the first or second or even the 10th down day, then you're not building anything big. The best founders are extremely resilient, and they push through near-death experience many, many times. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. So I think that was a very, very, really insightful answer. This brings us to our last question. So I will maybe just going a bit outside your career. So obviously now you have a lot of things on your plate. You're also a family man. You have a 2-year-old of your own, and you're also very busy. Running. Running Zacua Ventures dialed up to 11. A lot of your companies are taking off, and at the same time you're trying to find time for your hobbies. So you play at a pretty good level. You play cricket very passionately at a pretty good level. So how do you kind of manage all these things, and how do you try to prioritize and weigh these different aspects of your life?
It's hard. It's not straightforward. It is very hard. Right, my travel schedule looks really terrible, right? But prioritization is extremely important. You try to say what's really important for you. And once you define what's really important, you find a way to make it work. For example, spending time with my daughter is really, really important to me. And I block off my evenings because I want to be there with her, right? My trips are just as short as they need to be, right? So what could have been 4 or 5 day trips before now are like two or three. So I was like fit it and try to make it happen, right? Just because I want to be home more for that. And sometimes you realize you can't do everything, and it's okay, right? But I'd rather do the things I really want to do than try to please everyone and do everything. Not everybody is going to be happy with you all the time. You just got to live with it, because if you try to keep everybody happy, one, it's impossible. It's not going to happen. Two, you end up doing things that are priorities to you, right? So that would be a miss for sure.
Absolutely. I think just one last question to close it in. So, if there was a fresh graduating out of NITK today, what skills would you ask them to learn, and what aspects of their career would you ask them to kind of prioritize?
Be good at be really, really good at one thing, right? You can define that what one thing it is. That could be a technical skill set, or that could be a non-technical skill set, but be exceptionally good at that. And then make sure the gaps are not holding you back, right? So someone used to tell me, see, if Michael Jordan focused on math and said his math is bad and he needs to improve it, and did not focus enough on basketball, today none of us would know it, right? He knew basketball is where he's really, really good at, and he had an extremely high spike there. So nobody cares about what he does in math or science or other things and so on, right? uh, so be really good at one thing and keep learning. Keep learning, as in the moment you stand still, the moment as you fall behind, you have to constantly upgrade yourself at any stage in life, and that's what will make you better.
Awesome. So, Yeah, super insightful, Vivin. So again, we understand like how busy you are. So again, wanted to thank you for taking out the time to do this and giving us this, a tiny spot in your schedule. So yeah, so I guess we won't be holding you off any longer. And thank you so much for being here. We got so many insights, and I hope this, and we genuinely hope this podcast kind of goes on to a younger audience just graduating out of NITK, so that they can kind of rely on your experience to make better decisions. So yeah, thank you so much for Vivin, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Thanks, Hari, and good seeing you.